Hey, it's Niall coming at you today from Sevilla in Spain. We were out and about earlier exploring the city. Three quick facts for you about the place. 1, Christopher Columbus is buried here. 2, it has more orange trees than any other city in the world. And 3, the cathedral here is the largest by volume in the world. It's all very nice, you should definitely come and visit. But this video is not about Sevilla. This video is about rapid skill building.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. I'm actually going to show you why you don't need to be some kind of super expert to start making good money online. You don't need to spend years studying, learning, or practicing a specific skill. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree, a master's. You don't have to have gone to college. In fact, you don't have to have any formal qualifications or experience whatsoever to build a successful online business.
No, it's not true. That's impossible!
Search your feelings, you know it to be true. Or maybe you don't, and that's why you're watching this video. So let me show you. And we'll start with this. When working online as a freelancer or a remote worker, there are 2 different types of tasks a client will pay you to do. The first is something they can't do themselves. And the second is something they don't want to do themselves. So maybe they don't have time, or maybe they don't like doing it, whatever. Now, if you already possess some skills for working online, maybe you know how to build a website, or you're a decent writer, or you have some experience with email marketing, for example. If so, that's great. Then you can and should focus on number 1. And clients will generally pay you more money to do number 1, to do something they can't do themselves. So in the long run, you should be developing those kinds of skills. However, a lot of you watching this probably feel like you don't have those kinds of skills, at least not yet. So there might not be a lot you can do that clients can't do themselves. In which case, you need to focus on number 2 and provide a service that clients don't want to do themselves. You can still make good money that way. Let me give you an example. My friend and fellow Irishman, Carlo Kotaro, never considered himself to be a good writer, but he found work online as a freelance writer, writing basic articles for client websites. Now, these were articles that the clients could have easily written themselves and on topics that Carlo didn't know much about, so he often had to do some research before he got started. But the point is that the clients simply didn't want to do the work themselves, and they were happy to pay Carlo $10 to $15 per short article to do the work on their behalf. Now, $10 to $15 per article might not sound like a lot, but with a bit of practice, Carlo was able to pump out 2, sometimes 3 of those articles an hour. So he was essentially getting paid $20 to $45 per hour to do work that his clients were well capable of doing themselves and could probably have done even better themselves, since they were more familiar with the subject matter. Now, that's just one example. I could give you lots more like that. Examples of people earning good money to do fairly basic online work. So work that clients could easily do themselves, but those clients would rather pay someone like you to do that work for them. And I want to emphasize that point, okay? I want to underline it, I want to highlight it, I want to underscore it, because it's really important, and I think a lot of people don't realize it. So again, people will pay you good money to do basic online work that they could easily do themselves. That's work they don't have time to do themselves, or would simply rather not do themselves for whatever reason. So with that in mind, I hope now you can appreciate that there are lots of things you can do online, many tasks that people will happily pay you for just so they don't have to do those things themselves. And it gets even better than that, because as I said, this video is about rapid skill building. And what that means is that you don't have to limit yourself to only taking on the jobs that you already know how to do. So let me show you now how easy it can be to learn a skill on the fly and get paid to do it.
Excellent!
I know, I'm excited too. This is my excited face. What you see here is an example of a good quality job posting on Upwork.com, and that's a big freelance marketplace website with loads of jobs posted every day that you can apply for. This particular posting is a copywriting job. The client wants to hire someone to write product descriptions, and they say less technical and more conversational in tone, add humor to descriptions, etc., etc. And you can see down in the bottom right there that this client pays freelancers an average of $35 an hour. Now, let's say you've never written a product description before. How can you quickly get good at doing that? Well, you literally go to Google, you type in how to write product descriptions, and you get back all these great results. And you click through and you have a read and you learn how to write product descriptions. Now that sounds really simple, maybe even too simple, but let me ask you this. If you were to spend 30 minutes going through a handful of those articles and soaking up all the great advice in there, do you think you'd be able to write a really good product description? Of course you would, of course you would. And then I bet you could write up 2 or 3 good samples, submit them as part of your proposal for this job, and have a good chance at getting hired and being paid as much as $35 an hour. It doesn't have to be any harder than that. But what do most people do? They see a job posting that they don't immediately know how to do. It's not something they've done before, not something they're familiar with, and so they write it off and they look for something easier or more familiar. If you don't do that, if instead you do what I just described, then you're putting yourself way ahead of most people looking for work online, and you can very quickly start getting paid the big bucks. Now, at this point, you may start suffering from a little something called imposter syndrome, which I think is best summarized by this scene from the movie La La Land.
Why? I've been to a million auditions, and the same thing happens every time, where I get interrupted because someone wants to get a sandwich, or I'm crying and they start laughing, or there's people sitting in the waiting room and they're like me but prettier and better at because maybe I'm not good enough.
So in that scene, you're Emma Stone, which I guess that makes me Ryan Gosling.
Hey girl, sorry my shirt fell off.
And I'm here to tell you, Emma Stone, that yes, you are good enough, and if you just hang in there until the end of the movie, you'll see that everything turns out great. Okay, seriously though, if you are worried about being a fraud or an imposter, here are 3 things to keep in mind. First, here are a whole bunch of successful people who've admitted to feeling like a fraud at one time or another. Neil Armstrong, Jodie Foster, John Steinbeck, Meryl Streep, Chris Martin, Tina Fey, Cheryl Strayed, Elizabeth Gilbert, Jennifer Lopez, Daniel Radcliffe, Lady Gaga, Emma Watson, Denzel Washington, Sheryl Sandberg, Tom Hanks, and Will Smith.
I'm an adult. I can handle this. I'm okay.
So, if you feel like an imposter, congratulations, you're in great company. Second, this article quotes a study that found that 70% of people suffer from imposter syndrome, and notes that it's often a positive sign. Quote, there is evidence to suggest that imposter syndrome correlates with success, and that those who don't suffer imposter syndrome are more likely to be the real frauds. People with imposter syndrome tend to be perfectionists, which means they're likely to spend hours working overtime to make sure they excel in every single field. So if you do suffer from imposter syndrome, chances are you're doing a pretty good job. And the third and final thing to keep in mind, this is Naval Ravikant. He is the co-founder of AngelList and multi-millionaire investor in companies like Twitter and Uber. And he once said, if I only did things I was qualified for, I'd be pushing a broom somewhere. What I'd like you to take from that is that it's not what you know or what you're qualified for that's most valuable to clients. It's your ability to figure things out as you go along. So don't ever be afraid to take on work you're not sure how to do. You'll most likely figure it out as you go. And even if you don't, worst case scenario, nobody will ever love you again. Aww. Nah, I'm just kidding. Actual worst case scenario, you apologize to the client, you don't charge them for your time, and then you pick yourself up and you try again. No big deal. And as a bonus, you're going to learn much faster working on real client projects than you would otherwise. So my advice is to start before you feel ready. As they say, the best time to start was yesterday, but if you can't start yesterday, today will have to do.
I don't know why, but today seems like it's gonna be a great day.
So here's what I want you to do right now. tell me in the comments below this video about a time when you felt you weren't qualified for something or felt like you didn't have enough experience doing something, but you went ahead and you gave it a try anyway, and you were glad you did. And last thing, this video is part of my Start Earning Online series. If you want more videos like this showing you step by step what it takes to build a successful online business, then find the link below, click through, and you can sign up for the full series. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.